When I think of the Raiders, I think of a couple of guys. My old teammate, Kenny Stabler, but I really think of Fred Biletnikoff and his blonde locks sticking out of the helmet, catching passes for 14 years for the Oakland Raiders, the LA Raiders. They became the LA Raiders. And now the Las Vegas Raiders. And I am honored to have my Hall of Fame brother, Fred Biletnikoff, on Great Dane Nation. Freddie, how we doing?
I'm doing great. Coming off oh my God, I'll tell you, seeing it down there in Las Vegas, it was crazy. I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
it was so good. You know what was good about it? All those years playing in Oakland, and how the crowd was in Oakland, so many times over the years, and then to have these players finally experience that down there in Las Vegas, it was amazing. I mean, the place was rocking. I mean, it was. I mean, you know what? You would think that the Raiders were playing for a Super Bowl win.
Yeah,
it was that nuts. It was fantastic, unbelievable.
So, Freddie, let me start there, because the Raiders, they had a penchant for moving around a little bit under Al Davis, and the move to LA to me never felt right. And I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's because they never had the stadium, and now they got a $2 billion stadium in Vegas, and it feels right, and there's the energy. But do you agree that the secret sauce was to get that new stadium?
Oh yeah, I was coaching when we were down in LA, and it felt right in that Coliseum. It just did, like you said, it never felt right, and you never felt at home. You never felt it was like your home field.
Yeah,
and it was that way for a number of years, and the thing about it, when the market is in the back of your mind all the time on what it was like in Oakland, and now you're down in LA, it just didn't work. It just wasn't the same, And then what really ruined it is after games when you saw SWAT teams outside the stadium. That's one thing in Oakland. We never had SWAT teams. Okay?
kind of a buzzkill.
Yeah, it was. But it never felt right down there. The whole atmosphere. We were in El Segundo for all those years, and just never got feeling like it was in Oakland. It could never repeat itself.
Well, how do you think? What will the Raiders miss most about the home field advantage? Because when I was in Oakland, when I played on the opposing team, I thought one of the most ominous, one of the most imposing elements of that home field advantage was that black hole provided by the fans.
Oh,
I mean, how do you get the black hole recreated in Vegas?
I don't know. I was looking on both end zones, and there's only one side that could possibly be the black hole. But when I was looking over there during the game, it didn't look like the black hole that was up in Oakland. And I don't know if it was because of the fact that it wasn't specifically for all the people from the Raider Nation that are members of that black hole group. But it just wasn't there. That was one of the things that I saw missing. And, they didn't have the sign out there, black hole. And it was just that side. I couldn't, one side it's impossible to have. The other side, possibility, but it just, that wasn't there. And I don't know if that element would ever be back or be part of the stadium, but I'm sure that there are people that bought tickets, season tickets, that are from the black hole sitting there, but it looked like just a disbursement of different people, not like the whole group.
Did you ever have a tradition when you played for the Raiders where you would go in pregame and visit with the fans in the black hole? Because I remember being down there. Man, they talk poorly about my mama. I'm going to be honest with you, Fred. I'm just going to be honest. Did you have a tradition as a home player, as a home team player?
They didn't really mean it. That was just game.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you know what? You go down there because, part of, when we went out in pregame warm-up, it's not like, like years ago where they go now. How these guys are running up and down the field over here. They're getting a workout before the game. I always went down in the end zone down there near the black hole which wasn't the name of the black hole at that time. It was just a whole group of people. They hadn't named it yet. And do part of my work out there in the end zone. And then you'd hear the people screaming and hollering and everything. And then the introductions, we always got introduced from that, from there into, from the end zone out, coming out onto the field. And so then that's when you would deal with all the people and, hit hands and all that stuff, shake hands and all that.
Pregame routine for us, well, at least in the 60s and 70s, and I got in there in 82, I remember teammates sitting on the bench blowing heaters, smoking cigarettes. Halftime, they'd run in and light up a couple of cigarettes. Do you remember that with the Raiders?
Yeah, no. Well, something, we had a lot of guys that did smoke, but something, we never really had guys that did that. It was always in a locker room or coming down the tunnel before you got on the field, and that was it. And so that's the only time that we really did that. Actually on the sideline, it didn't. I can't remember anybody doing it on the sideline. The only thing I remember is when I was coaching, you could still smoke on the sideline, and they were just starting to try to implement a rule about coaches smoking on the sideline or any sideline smoking. And I got a letter from the commissioner. We were in Kansas City, and a week later, I got a letter from the commissioner just telling me, he says, we're not advertising cigarettes, Fred.
Message received, right?
And that was the only time.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Raiders today, because as I was watching the first game in week 1, and this will our show here with you will air in a couple of weeks, so we'll keep it as evergreen as we can. But beginning of the season, the Raiders, and I'm going here Monday night, and I'm thinking, here go the old Raiders again. They're gonna screw it up with penalties. They're gonna screw it up with a turnover, but they didn't. So what is different about this football team? I'm looking at their quarterback who played really well. How about this guy Waller? Unbelievable, unbelievable.
He started off a little slow. There were a couple balls where I really believe normally if it was after, when you get up there, you know how it is. When you get up there, you're trying to get warmed up, number one, even when you start the game.
Yeah.
Because there is something to be in first, no matter how much warm up you do for the game. When that first snap comes, it's like a little bit of an experience there, and you kind of got to get into it. And it just seemed that right in the beginning, they never got into it, but that was a couple of those passes, it was just, wait a minute, that just doesn't happen. And then he got warmed up and he kept going and got better and better. But I mean, the kid's a hell of a player. I mean, I'll tell you, he's outstanding, to be able to go out there, play close, in a 3-point stance, split out a little bit, be a wide receiver. The guy's unbelievable. I mean, he can do it all. I mean, when you have somebody like that type of talent, and you can put him on any position on the field, alignment wise, it's unbelievable. I mean, because you can do a lot of things.
Do you think the Raiders can win a Super Bowl with Derek Carr?
I think so. You know what? It seems that, I mean, I love all the players on offense. Okay, I really do. I think we have a lot of talent. I know we have a lot of talent. But they are the type of team, in my opinion, that has to be on and play together as a unit. And guys have to come up with plays. It's not like somebody, everybody wants to be a leader. But then there's some points where, as long as you play as a team, nobody has to be the leader. Everybody has to just play and make plays and keep it positive. And like you said a few minutes ago, when something happens, an interception, a penalty, a fumble, whatever, a drop ball, a missed throw, whatever, your team's personality has to be, well, we can still come back.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They just keep coming back, even though so many things happened. They hung in there. And that's what you do. It might not be pretty, but, at the end of the day or 6 months from now, nobody's going to know how the hell you won that game.
No, they're not.
Most people are going to forget about what the hell everybody did. And all it is a win, And it's like, as you could win beautifully or you could win ugly.
Oh yeah,
and it doesn't matter just as long as you win. That's
correct.
it. Just win, baby.
Just win, baby, as Al Davis would say. And you said you were thrilled and you liked everybody on offense. Do you have a favorite player that you kind of,
you know what,
that speaks to you?
Everybody loves Waller. I like Carr. I love Jacobs. I love the wide receivers. The good thing about the wide receivers, they're still a young group, and a couple years here or there, and John's offense isn't easy to really retain, mentally all the time. So you're always being tested with John's offense, and you really have to have a great mind to really function in it. So you have that to deal with, and then try to feel comfortable out on the field, playing in it. But it's coming. And what the offensive line does a good enough job. Tom Cable does a great job, and everybody on offense does a great job. They just have to keep playing together. And I really feel that during the season, guys just have to keep making plays.
Sure.
I believe, I love Derek, but Derek needs support from the rest of the team.
Yeah.
And that's it. And the rest of the team has to support Derek too. And that's what I see. So I feel that there's more of a team concept after dealing with the whole team, that they all have to play together. And it's always like I learned all the years, you can go on and on in a game and things go bad or things go good, but it all comes down to who's going to make a play.
Yeah.
Who's going to make the big play to help the team or help win or score a touchdown, whatever it may be. It's the other thing I was really impressed with is Gus has done a fantastic job with that defense. He really has. You know what I saw that I didn't see in the prior couple years is those guys were flying around and hitting people.
Yeah, they were.
You could just feel the energy of the defense was just fantastic, and you could see that they were so intense and into it. That they put a lot of pressure on that quarterback.
Had Alex. Alex flew around in there.
Yep.
And really has kind of reinvented himself. He had some issues off the field with some addiction that he was able to face and battle and come through. And now it's like he is reinventing himself, recommitting himself to personal excellence at such a level. I mean, he talk about flying around. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really impressive. The tough thing about it is when you love defense, watching defense, it was good to watch that game Monday night because you saw a whole different demeanor in the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
And it was good. I mean, you had a good feeling finally up there. I mean, there were a couple of times where guys got beat. With passes and everything, but that's going to happen to everybody.
Sure.
But the thing about it, that defensive line, the secondary was flying around, tackling people, hitting people.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt that the Raiders got back to what it was years ago all the time. That when you play the Raiders, it's going to be a physical battle with from the defense.
Yeah.
And they showed that. I really truly believe they showed that.
You mentioned Jon. We're talking, of course, about Jon Gruden, who decided to leave the booth and become a head coach again after a decade away from the game on television. What's your feeling about Gruden and how he's done since returning and how he's running the team? You mentioned a little bit about his offense. That's complicated. You got to be on the ball to learn. But
sure.
as a person, as a leader, as a coach, how do you see Gruden fitting into that Raider
well,
nation?
I had the opportunity to work for Jon when I was coaching when he was in Oakland for a few years, and he's a very intense guy. He gets things rolling on a practice field. He's always up. He's always energetic. He expects everybody to have the same. Trying to keep up with him is like impossible, basically. But you have to have a certain amount of energy, which Jon has. Yep. And if it's from the meeting room inside the building, and in the meeting room, even in the coaches' meetings, to when he gets on that field, I mean, he's positive, he's honest. You know, if something goes wrong, if there's something negative, you know, he's not afraid to address it. And he goes on, but he's addressing it to be positive and be constructive, and which he does. And he's just, I think he's doing a great job. I really do. And it's you know, that business, that coaching business is a tough business because, you know, you have guys, you have to get your guys to play.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And the thing about it, when you're the head coach, you have to expect all your coaches, assistant coaches, to get their guys to play, and then it falls together. And then you have Jon at the top of the heap, with somebody that's just, you know, grinding it and pushing it, and, you know, really being animated about things on the field and during the game, whatever, in a meeting room, you know. So you see that energy consistent. You know, Jon's not like one way in a meeting room and another way on a field or another way in a ball game. You know, he's that way consistently, which is impressive because there's not too many people that can
put your coaching hat on for a second, Fred. All right, you got it on?
Okay.
You got it on. Now, you coached for a long time, and you're well respected, and you did a great job. But take me inside that meeting room with the wide receivers, and then spray some knowledge at me and some gold nuggets. What do you tell those young guys? Because clearly there's a generational gap here. What do you tell them to get them motivated, to clarify their mission? Talk to me about that.
Well, you know what? The first thing I learned was that players learn different ways. Like, I was a visual learner, and you have people that are visual learners and people that you can just put a piece of paper in and go over a game plan and they get it. Okay. Others, you have to let them see it. So like with me, when my preparation in the meeting room would be, I would go and put up everything on the board the night before. And so when we went into the meeting room, I just went right over the board from one end of the board to the other end of the board and really stopped in between to make sure everybody got it. If somebody didn't get it, and I made everybody feel comfortable with the fact that, hey, listen, I understand, you know, you learn this way, you learn this way, you learn this way. So let's get it all out here, and we're all learning together here, no matter what. And so that's what we do. And then the thing I did is I would make guys go up on a board and actually draw up the play, draw up defenses, you know, do that. So they got used to, number one, not being hesitant or feeling somewhere hesitant to bring them out, not let them be like an inward guy, get things out, you know, and make them go up on a board. And hell, I would, you know, guy got up there, okay, let's go up and draw this play up, okay, or let's draw this defensive up. And then what I would do is I'd ask somebody in the room, is he right? You know, did he do it the right way? And if it was done the right way, fine. If it wasn't, then we corrected it. But I made the atmosphere in the room all the time where you didn't have to be hesitant about learning.
And inclusive.
Yeah, inclusive. Yeah, and it brought the group together a lot better. And then when the years I was coaching with different coaches, everybody had their own what they wanted to do. Where, you know, some head coaches were, you know, okay, get them in a meeting room, get your work done, and that's it. And some coaches were, well, I want you to keep them in for this period of time.
Sure.
Well, sometimes that period of time was like a couple hours, and after a while, you're gonna be like a bad comedian.
Yeah, it's just no bueno, right? Man.
So what I would do for part of my meeting would take, like, say I had a 2-hour window meeting time. I'd keep them in it for like an hour, make sure all the work was done. Okay, everybody understood it. And then I'd take them out on the field and would review things out on the field, which guys felt really comfortable doing it that way. And it got them out of the meeting room, got them back on the field where they're comfortable. And so that's how I ran everything. And then, listen, you got to be a social worker, psychologist. You know, a coach is about the 10th thing down the line. All right. And you have to know how to handle personalities. You know,
you had personalities with the Raiders.
Wore a lot, you know, they didn't like it. Yeah, but you know, there's some things that you don't want to do, some things you have to do. But you know what? When, you know, I was a competitor all my life. You know, whatever. And sometimes you let that overtake your coaching deal. So you approach it and maybe a little rougher or gruffer way, or
Sure.
not what guys want to hear. But, it got to the point after a number of years, they understood me. So if I swore at somebody, knew I really didn't mean it.
Yeah.
It was the fact that, hey, listen, if you want to go out there and win and be perfect, you got to do it.
Yes.
And it gets a little frustrating, and, you have to handle your frustration better.
Yeah. Quick chronology of Fred Biletnikoff's career and life here. It's a long, rich history that doesn't warrant us. I mean, you just don't have enough time to. But a few cliff notes for our listeners. Fred Biletnikoff, Erie, Pennsylvania, ends up at Florida State. And I want to talk to you about that. But let me just go through the kind of the lifeline here, if you will, and then we'll pick a few items and we can talk about that. Florida State, great success there. Really was one of the first guys to establish that winning tradition with the Seminoles. And then drafted in the third round by the Raiders, and also in another draft, that's back with the AFL and the NFL, also Detroit. So let me start there, Freddie. How important was it for you to be drafted by the Raiders, and how would your career have looked had you gone to Detroit? Don't choke on me.
You know what? At the time, Detroit had Terry Barr, a couple receivers that were outstanding players, but. The thing that attracted me, California sounded a lot better to me than Detroit, Michigan. All right. But, it was the fact that it was a new league, the AFL, with the Raiders. It was a new league. They threw the ball all the time, so it fit into what you were doing as a player, and it was that was the attraction. Going somewhere where it's going to be exciting, where you're going to throw the football all the time. And of course, having Al at that time, when I went in, Al was the head coach, and then became the general manager, owner, and all that stuff. But, to have somebody like him and being able to, and him convincing you in a lot of ways on, it's the right move is coming to Oakland. I didn't need much confusing, because what the thing for me is, I went from Erie down to Tallahassee, Florida, to Florida State, and it was a big change for me. And then I kept that change in my mind when I got drafted, and figured, okay, I can go back up to Detroit, or I can do what I did is come down to Tallahassee. I said, hell, I'm going to California. I'm going to California. It's nice, it's warm, the weather. Who wouldn't want to go to California, number one, and be out there? So, I was a young kid when I started out making those moves, and I just continued it. And I was happy I did it. It was big moves for me because I was moving away from my family and, my parents and relatives and friends and everything. But I did it, and I'm happy I did it, really.
You mentioned Al Davis. So let me ask you about the great Al Davis, and what your two questions. What were your first impressions of the great Al Davis? And secondly, how do you describe Al Davis to like a young football fan who doesn't know who he is?
Well, you know what? With Al and his, I like say his demeanor, and just seeing him, his presence in front of you is intimidating.
How so?
Well, once you get to know him, it's not that. The thing with Al was, it was very simple. When I was playing, when I was coaching, if you're a young kid, it's just that, listen, you got to do the right thing here. You're coming in here, you're going to play professional football. You're going to play football for me, and you got to be a football player. You got to do whatever it takes to be a football player. I mean, like my rookie year, we went to the college all-star game. There were like four of us that got drafted by the Raiders. So we were in Rensselaer up there with Otto Graham. They were coaching the all-star game at that time. And so we're all late to get to training camp, weeks late. And so the first day in practice, Al stuck us all in at the same time. And Al was the one that called the plays and everything. Well, my first play, I split out. Well, hell, I'm splitting out there. I go like this. Okay, do I do this? Do I do that? Am I in the right alignment? Whatever. The ball snapped. I go, and I run the wrong route. Come back to the huddle. Al looks at me. He says, "Hey, son, you're not at Florida State," and that was the only comment he made. All right, and then going on down the line, and so that wised me up. And then going down the line, like when I played in my first preseason game, I dropped 3 balls, and then. We only played the second half at that time. So towards the end of the fourth quarter, Lee Grosscup, who was on the team with me, throws me a touchdown. So I come off the field and I'm going by Al. He looks at me, he goes like this, he said, "I don't even know why I drafted you."
Oh God!
So that was my rookie season. All right.
Yeah.
But that's what you did.
Yeah.
That's how if you learn to get out there and basically get your ass out there and work. And it's going to be a physical game, which Al made practices all physical. So you got used to it. And that's how you approached it. And being a young kid, I learned quickly. I made mistakes and I got reminded in one way, a nice way, but, indirectly. And then on the other side, it was like, when somebody throws cold water on you, in the middle of the night when you're sleeping and you jump up like that, that's when I came off to the sideline at the time when he said that to me. I said, "Whoa, wait a minute, man." I was afraid to go on a bus and he's going to bitch and moan at me.
Well,
so I stayed away from him.
Fred, I mean, the Raiders of the 60s and 70s, they were feared by those around the league. I mean, that and to me, that fear was warranted. I mean, you look on that now that large part of your career, the left side of that Raiders offensive line, let me just see here. Art Shell at left tackle, Gene Upshaw at left guard, Jim Otto at center. Is this the greatest left side of an O-line in the history of football?
Unbelievable. If you want a first down, just run to the left. That's it. But yeah, they were amazing. You know what? It was the one thing that we all learned, I learned young because of Al, the fact that if you're going to go out there and be on that field,
Mm-hmm.
you want to dominate everybody. I mean, you got to figure out a way how to dominate. Like obviously being a receiver, you got to figure out how the hell I'm going to beat this guy that I'm playing against, and you got to go out there and dominate. If you don't have that in the back of your mind, going out there and dominating the people you're playing against, then it's impossible just to go play. You just can't go play. It's unbelievable. You can't do that. You got to go out there with the mindset, and you got to be tough mentally. I mean, the throw to me, like I always say, is playing wide receiver. And I played against a hell of a lot of guys, Hall of Famers, tough physical guys. I got my ass beat a lot of times,
Sure.
but you know what? I had to go back in that huddle and come back out. I couldn't go back in that huddle and hide.
No.
You had to get back out there in a matter of short period of time.
Yep.
So you had to be tough enough mentally to figure, okay, hell, I got to go back out there.
Yep.
So I got to figure it out pretty damn quick.
Yeah.
And fun of playing wide receiver with me. How strong you were mentally to get your ass kicked, get back in the huddle, come back out and win, and keep going back and forth like that. And it's like everybody says, the last man standing, you might get beat all the time, but, somewhere along the line, you got to figure it out how to beat this guy and have it work out. And that was the mental part of the game that I love.
You had some unbelievable gunslingers throwing the ball to you, Freddie. I mean, you had Tom Flores, all right, and then Kenny Stabler, and then also I want to talk about Daryle Lamonica a little bit because he's not in the Hall of Fame and he's 80 years old. So let's start with Daryle. Why is this guy not in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. It's almost like guys played for a period of time. Daryle was a great ball player, and he could throw the hell out of the ball against it. It's almost like they get buried. You know what I'm saying? Like it almost seems like they disappear, and nobody talks about them. And then all of a sudden, things go over years and years, and guys keep piling up, and all of a sudden, you see yourself, you're further down in the pile.
Yeah.
You know, instead of being up on it, working your way up on the top.
Yes.
And I don't know. I mean, years ago, I mean, like people that vote now, it's, you know, we don't know them. Nobody knows really how they are. I mean, hell, there's guys on the voting deal that just absolutely hate the Raiders. They're never going to vote for the Raiders.
Yeah.
You know, any Raiders, they don't care. But you know, Daryle should be in the Hall of Fame. He really ought to.
Well, speaking of buried, you know, Tom Flores was buried for a long time, and he just got elected. Geez. How excited and how thrilled are you for Tom Flores to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame now?
Yeah, you know what? For years and years, and you know what? Watching all these other coaches go into the Hall of Fame, you know, they're putting coaches in there. Now they got scouts in there. Guys that if you want to donate $10 million, they'll put you in there automatically.
No names.
Guys have been eligible. No names. Guys that have been eligible for like 1 or 2 years, they're already going in, and you see all this happening, and then you go and you see a coach that won 2 Super Bowls, you know, and he was the offensive coordinator on our team when we beat Minnesota in the Super Bowl. He handled everything offensively, so people really. You know, and point I'm getting to is the 2 Super Bowls. Tom was a hell of a coach. I mean, a great coach. Okay, and the Super Bowl when he was a coordinator. I mean, he did so many things for that team from that period of time and through all the way through the Super Bowls. It was unbelievable. And he matches up against any head coach in the Hall of Fame. He really does. Yeah. And why it happened and took so long, I don't have any idea.
Yeah.
You know, I really don't have any. But the bottom line is he got in. You know, it's sorry he had to wait so long, but he got in, and it was fantastic seeing him being there, seeing him have that yellow jacket on, and you know, it was just fantastic because you know I started with him in my rookie year. I know, and been with him all those years, and when he was coaching me, and it was terrific. You know, it was a thrill for me to see him get into Hall of Fame. It really was. You know, proud Well, you know what? I mean, you had a chance to be around them, and you know, and Kenny's just fantastic guy. I mean, we when we were with the Raiders together, we lived together for about 3 years. Which wasn't really too dangerous, but you know, it was good. But do
tell, Freddie.
To see him,
please tell.
Yeah. See him have to wait all those years to get in the Hall of Fame. Where I mean, Kenny was just a fantastic guy. You know, we had such a great relationship, and the good thing about both of us is, even though like the 3 years we lived together, you know, we never took that personal relationship on the. Never in practice and games or whatever, you know, and we never even discussed that. And it was like, okay, you're the quarterback, I'm the receiver, that's it. But we developed a really close relationship, and I love being around Kenny, you know, and we had a lot of fun together. We developed a great tight relationship, and you know, it's like this, you know, when you're not together, you're still together.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how our relationship was, you know, to see him get in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. And again, somebody that had to wait and get in. And unfortunately, he passed away. But, you know, the family, I was able to host them there because of my relationship with Kenny, which was a thrill for me. And to go through the whole process with them, with the grandkids and Kenny's dog. It was fantastic. Kenny was super guy.
I read somewhere that you and him had a bar in Oakland. Is that true?
I had the bar. He drank that all the time. No, you know what? I'll tell you, we were both going through a tough time in our personal lives at the time. And we had very little money, whatever. Okay. And so I got into the bar business with a couple other guys that didn't turn out very good, but at least we have some place to eat and drink.
What was the name of the place, Freddie? What was
so that's
name?
where we hung out.
What was the name of the place?
It was the Flanker.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it was right. It was right on Hagenberger Road, just 3 or 4 blocks from the Coliseum.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, you had it, and everybody wants to own the bar, but something.
Hey,
it's all great. It's all good, but
you're looking at one of them. I had a bar restaurant in New Orleans. I had a bar in New Orleans called Champions, and okay. Okay.
Boy, this is really a lot of fun. And then then when the deal comes to the end, you go, "Oh, what? Who's holding the paper here, man?"
Capital call? What's a capital call?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I'll tell you what, but that's where we hung out all the time. Okay. And we of course we had a lot of fun there. I mean, we had a ball. I mean, everything, we had all the fans in and all that stuff. And it was a great time. You know what? It's one of those periods of time in your life you say you wish you didn't do it, but to me, I did it, and I'm not sorry I did it. I learned a lot in life about it, and I went on and went forward after that.
So you talk about your relationship with Kenny, and I totally feel the same way. I was a teammate of his just for a year or two in New Orleans. But if you look at today's quarterbacks in today's game, is there a guy where you go, man, I'd like to play with him? And that could, and why? Can you give me a guy?
Something, to be honest with you, I really don't know.
Yeah.
I really
is it a Tom Brady that reminded you maybe of George Blanda?
Well, you know what? The closest one that I could say that I would love to play with would be Brady. Okay.
Why is that?
Why? Because I see him having the same demeanor as the guys I played with, and especially Kenny, and see him with that demeanor, and see him how he knows how to use the personnel on the field, which makes him, I think, really totally different from the rest of a lot of quarterbacks. But Kenny was, I would compare him demeanor-wise. I don't know how he is off the field, but I see the same demeanor when he's in a huddle, when he comes on the field, when he takes the team up to the line of scrimmage, and I see that from him. And that's probably the only one I could possibly say that I would really want to play with. Because hey, listen, something, when you have the opportunity to play with Tom in the beginning, and Tom had that demeanor, very calm. Lamonica was a little more hyper, but I love playing with him. And then you have somebody like Kenny. I mean, it's tough to say, okay, what quarterback would you like to play with? Because, I played with 3 guys that were great quarterbacks. Oh, yeah. And so to be in comparison, then on top of it, George Blanda.
Yeah, I know. He threw a few passes.
Yeah, so I had 4 guys that I was able to play with, during my 14 years. Yeah. And I wouldn't replace him with anybody.
Yeah.
I wouldn't replace any of them. The only one I might replace him with is Marino. That's it.
Well, he's a great one. There's no question about that.
Oh, yeah. But that's how I feel about about my period of time. The guys I played with, like Kenny and Tom and George, and George was fun to play with because he got in the huddle. He had 1 or 2 plays he wanted to call, and that was it. Boom, and you're out of the huddle.
So let's talk about this for a second, Freddie. How would you fare in today's NFL? It seems much easier to play wide receiver in today's NFL compared to when you played because of the rule changes.
Oh, geez. You know what? It's like everybody. Nobody understands the rules. That's the one thing. I think they're very poor at implementing the rules. I think they're very, I don't think there's a word. If there's a word other than poor, lower than poor, looking for consistency between wide receivers and defensive backs, that's what it is. It's so, I think the word is failure. Okay. I think that they really fail out on the field with the wide receivers and defensive backs to get consistency. I feel very strongly about that. And it's not because I was a wide receiver. It's because I like to see the fairness between both the defensive back and a wide receiver, and whoever wins wins. But there's a period of time with everything. I mean, I know what it's like to play without rules. Okay, because in period of time, there were no rules. I mean, you went out there, it was
mauled.
Like you were in a boxing ring with the championship. Yeah, that's it. I mean, you got, hey, listen, I'll tell you what. I mean, you got knocked around. I mean, you know, like I played against Pat Fisher from Washington. I mean, you got to be careful of him, man. I'll tell you what. You know, before at the line of, much less field, but all the guys were like that. And now it's like, let these guys play. You know, let them play. And I feel in a lot of instances that no one knows the rule. Like they have the 5-yard rule. Okay, you can hit a guy as much as you want and all that stuff. Okay, but I don't see defensive backs using that rule. You know, because if I was to coach a defensive back against a wide receiver, and I'd say, hey, listen, you just get on top of this guy and beat the crap out of him. Okay, that's it. And that's within the rules. But you don't see anybody doing it. Everybody's getting a free release up the field.
Yeah.
You know, every once in a while you see somebody do something, you know, one of the defensive backs from a team that, you know, must be pretty decent, hold a guy up at the line of scrimmage, but that's very rare.
Yeah.
You know, everybody thinks the covering is downfield, you know, where when I was brought up in this whole deal, it wasn't. It was the cover started when the ball was snapped at the line of scrimmage. You know, no one ran alongside of you up the field. Everybody was beating you and smacking you, pulling your jersey, everything. And I just don't see that in football. I don't see that 5-yard rule put in use.
Freddie, who's the best receiver in the NFL today?
Oh, my God. I like Julio Jones. You know, I like Julio Jones, and I feel I don't want to say I feel sorry for him, but I feel a lot of emotion for him because he's an outstanding player, and he's on the wrong team. You know, now when Roddy White was there, they were a hell of a combination. But Julio, I like Julio, I really do. And the other one with Denver now, Jerry Jeudy, he seems to be coming along better, a young kid. You know, I like our guys. I like, you know, with Hunter Renfrow. I like Hunter Renfrow because he's a competitor. And I mean, I like all the wide receivers for the Raiders, but, you know, to stand one out, I would take Julio.
Yeah.
You know, because I think he's a hell of a player.
Let me just take you back to Florida State. We just kind of brushed over it, and Bobby Bowden, of course, was your wide receivers coach there for your final 2 seasons. Your senior season in '64 is considered by many to be one of the greatest and one of the best wide receiver seasons in college football history. That's not me saying it. That's people that know what the hell they're talking about saying it. So I'm just repeating that. How important was Bobby Bowden to your success and how you got going at Florida State? And do you have any good Bobby Bowden stories here? I would love to hear.
You know what, Bobby Bowden, if you wanted a kid in college football and say you really were knowledgeable about any and all of the coaches, all right, Bobby Bowden would be a guy that you would want to pick as your coach, undoubtedly, you know, because he was a great teacher. He had a great personality, great demeanor, never changed. You know, when Bobby was when I first started with Bobby down at Florida State to all his years, all the championships and everything and all that, it was the same guy. You know, it was the same guy consistently. He never changed. His demeanor never changed about anything anyway. And he was very calm, cool, collective, always was considerate about, I come from Pennsylvania all the way down to Florida State. So he knew that transition for me, handled it very well, and helped me out through a lot of on there with things. But he's just a wonderful guy to be around, you know, and a great coach. But Bobby was super. Well, you can't be beat for some time in your life to have a person around and be part of your life and have an impact on your life like Bobby had on mine.
How did he influence you? You say he had an impact on life by the way he taught, the things he said to you, or can you go a little deeper for me?
Well, he was very good at explaining everything. Very good on the field with teaching, with catching the football, running routes. He knew he knew and could anticipate and see what you were going through. When you would go lined up, he knew exactly, how you felt, because he took that much of an interest in you to learn how you body. He could see the way you're handling yourself. It was going to be good or bad, and he'd just take you and start talking to you and explain things to you really, really slowly, really understand it, so you can understand what was going on. And he just continued with that all the time. So his personality on what you were trying to get done was a great teaching method that I learned from him, because he could do it. I mean, he knew you.
Yeah.
And that was really important. He knew your personality. He knew how you handle yourself. He could tell if you were up or you're down or you're confused or you're doing good.
Sure.
And he handled it that way. And he wasn't afraid to interject. He wasn't afraid to confront you, but in a very mild manner all the time. And it was very productive for me.
Do you think that some of the stuff you learned from Bobby you took with you when you coached?
All but the swearing. But that's one thing I always tease Bobby about. I said, that's one thing you learned. You really taught me. You really influenced me on cutting back on my swearing. I told him one time I was in Tallahassee, and he was there was a whole bunch of recruits coming in, and he was up there talking. They said, well, you got to stop in and see Bobby. They were having a banquet deal. And so he was up there talking when the guy brought me in the door, and he looked over. He looked at me, oh my God. So he called me up to the podium. And so we were talking back and forth up there. And so we were going on. And I just looked at the crowd. I said, you know what? I always tell Coach Bowden this: until people found he was my receiver coach, nobody knew him. So that's how Bobby and I got along together. I always teased him about that, but he, getting on emotional say he's going to be missed, totally missed, not only by his family, obviously, but by everybody in Tallahassee, everybody across the country, everybody that ever played for him.
He was a great man, great coach.
Or coached for him. Yeah.
Yeah. A small part of Bobby Bowden will always be with, this is what I've heard from other players, and it sounds like you feel the same way. Small part of Bobby Bowden's always going to be with you as part of you.
Oh, sure. Every time you mention Bobby Bowden's name, you're going to get a smile on everybody's face.
Yeah.
You really are. You're never going to get an angry look from anybody when you mention Bobby Bowden, bring Bobby Bowden's name up. Never.
Do you think Bobby Bowden would have approved of you going to the CFL for your last year with the Montreal Alouettes?
Yeah, he knows how much I love football, and I had, the Raiders let me go, but of course Tom was the head coach when he let me go. but I went up there with Joe Scannella, and he needed an import. He needed an American receiver, because of the import rule up there. So I went up there to 1 year. We got to the championship game and lost in Hamilton, but we were one step away from the Grey Cup. But it was a great, it was a great experience for me. I got to play with a lot of guys from all over Canada, guys from the U.S., of course, and got to be in a culture that was really, you've never been around before in your life.
Yeah. And
it was fun. Well, Montreal was a great time, great place to be at, number one, and play in the Olympic Stadium.
Sure.
That was great, and the weather got cold, but you know what? I'm glad I did it, because I met a lot of friends. It was something that, at my age at the time, people would question, why are you going? I go, Well, it's like I always say, when you can get a running start towards the line of scrimmage, okay, that helps a lot too when you get older. All right. But it was fun, and we had a great team. You know what? The team up there at that time, they were just like the guys on the Raiders that I played with all years. And so it wasn't even like a transition for me because everybody was competitive. Everybody wanted to win. Everybody liked to go out and have a beer, all that stuff, So it was like I just moved from California to Montreal, but the guys just have different faces.
I'm curious to hear your opinion on was it a difficult transition to play with the 3 downs versus the 4 downs?
You know what? My first game, a preseason game, was in Winnipeg. So we went out to play in Winnipeg. And believe me, when you're down on that other 20-yard line and you look down the field, it looks like it's 500 miles away, man.
I know.
And with the width and everything and the pace of the game is, if you're, and it's all passing. You're always on the go. You're always on the go. You're always running, and you got to get your ass back in the huddle because they just put that ball down and you're going. So I thought I was in pretty damn good shape, but that first preseason game, man, I'll tell you what, I'm going, holy Christ Almighty! It's unbelievable. And then you got to get used to, hey, listen, all those years being used to 3 downs, all of a sudden, hey, you only got 2 chances here.
That's it.
And the 2 chances are important all the time, and you're never out of a ball game.
Right.
It's busy. It's busy, and the game goes quick. It's busy. But I enjoyed it. I got used to it, and I enjoyed it. It was. I had a good time. I really did.
Fred, before I let you go, man, and it's been a blast. And let me say this while I have you in front of me. I've always admired your spirit, that human spirit, that fun-loving. I would have been a great Raider, man, because I like to have a beer too. I could have fit right in with you guys. Oh my goodness, easily.
Yep, and you know what? You could have been our roommate.
Oh my gosh, the 3 amigos.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, you know what? You have been when one of Earl Mann was with us, okay? So Earl Mann, he wanted a room with us. So he roomed with Kenny, right? We had connecting rooms, okay? So after about a week in practice, John goes, okay, let's finish off with field goals, okay? First one, Earl basically shanks it. Second one, he buries it in the center's ass, okay? And then the third one went over on the other side. John said, okay, that's enough, and moved Earl out of the room.
I would not have done that.
He said, you're not rooming with those guys anymore.
bad influence.
That's it. Yeah. See, but you would have had fun. That's it.
I'm trouble off the bat, buddy. I mean, I'm going to be right there next to you as your wingman. You know what I'm saying?
That's it. We had a good time. Hey, we ran hard, but we played hard.
I love that. Can I get a couple? I'm just play a little name game with you. Yeah. I'm going to give you a name, and you just give me one word or a sentence or whatever comes to mind when I say this person's name. You're going to know them all.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up, Freddie. Okay. John Madden.
Fantastic.
Yeah. What made him fantastic?
He knew how to handle personality.
You mentioned that earlier.
He knew how to handle every guy. He had that tough side to him, but he also had a very good side to him, which he was a very understanding person to be around.
Bill Walsh. He was a young assistant on the Raiders in the 60s.
Bill Walsh, it's not that I'm trying to figure out because I wasn't around Bill that much. All I know is that the only thing, he was very nice to me every time I was around him, but I was never around him in any coaching or out in the public ever.
Dave Casper.
Fantastic player. Even though he's from Notre Dame, all right. He was. Listen, Dave was a great player. I mean, he's unbelievable. Even now when I see the highlights and everything, and I see the catches that he made downfield, I mean, he made some fantastic catches, man. I mean, impressive. I mean, he's a game breaker. I mean, he makes a difference in the game.
Great guy.
Oh, geez, I'll tell you what. You know something? You could be, oh, Christ. You could be where they're pouring beer in a walkway outside the stadium and have them, okay, you got to put it through that opening and get it down the other end inside the 10-yard line and he'd do it. Yeah. You know, no matter where you were on the field, Ray was kicking the ball. Hey, you know, when the offense gets stuck and you're on a 10, 15-yard line, he'd get there, bam, all the way down the field. Forget it. Fantastic. What a punter. Unbelievable. I mean, the ball, well, you know, too, the ball shot off his foot. It was like coming out of a cannon.
Yeah. Willie Brown.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. Willie, we're very close friends, Willie and I. I'll tell you what, if you wanted to have a friend that was unbelievable, would do anything for you, help you in any way, I mean, that was Willie. We were very close. And if you wanted a football player and you were a coach and you said, hey, go stand on top of that wide receiver out there and don't let him down the field, it's a done deal. He is a fantastic player and fantastic person.
Freddie, I've taken enough of your time. I consider you a friend. We never played on the same team, but we certainly have shared a beverage or two and commiserated and had some fun and told some stories like two old ball players should do.
Absolutely.
And you've had an unbelievable, rich, successful journey, and it continues. And you do good work. And you sell wine, you make wine, and you give back to the community. I'm so proud of you, and I really appreciate your time today, man, on Great Dane Nation.
Well, Mort, thanks so much. Okay, it means the world to be on with you. Okay, and I'm glad we hooked up and you know, back at the Hall of Fame, and knowing that you were doing this and being able to be on here, it was fantastic.
Awesome, man. I appreciate your time, you know. And go Raiders. Just win, baby. Just win, baby.
Go Raiders. Hey, listen, we're going to Pittsburgh. Oh, my God. Hey, the bad element is coming to Pittsburgh.
Before I let you go, did Franco Harris catch that immaculate reception?
Hell no. You know what? I can't figure out how guys can lie for so many years and not feel guilty. You think, I'm sure some of them probably have gone to counseling, okay, just to get over lying, okay?